All right, so I'd like to start by saying welcome to our website. My name is Matthew Manus. I'm the owner of M1 Property Group. I thought I'd put together this video. I thought it could be useful for those of you that are checking out our site or interested in our services. So with that said, let's get started. All right, so we'll start off with a little bit about our company and about me. All right, so my name is Matthew Manus. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm the owner of M1 Property Group. I actually began my real estate journey back in 2009. That was when I really began an interest in real estate. At the time, I was working in the nuclear sector as a structural engineer, and I was traveling a lot. And I knew eventually I would like to start my own real estate investment business. So I eventually worked toward that and left that job and became a full-time investor in 2015. Some of my credentials that I picked up along the way that I think are useful and that some of my customers really like. I am a full-time investor, like I said, since 2015. I am a North Carolina and South Carolina licensed general contractor. I first got my general contractor's license when I was 19, back in 2004. I'm also a North Carolina and South Carolina licensed professional engineer. So I have a structural engineering background, and I first got my North Carolina PE in 2015. So with the contractor and engineering background, I really have a pretty good idea of what I'm looking at when I go out to these properties and meet with homeowners. And there's not a whole lot that really scares me away because of the background I have. On top of that, I'm also a former North Carolina licensed home inspector. I got that in 2007. The only reason I don't have that anymore is because I got it right before the economy they basically dropped out in 2008 or so, and there wasn't a lot of home inspections to do. So I let that license go, but I still do use a lot of that training that I took for that particular license. And then lastly, I'm actually a PMI, project management professional. PMP certification, basically. I got that back in 2014, and that basically comes into play for managing large-scale projects, which is some of the things I get into with these properties that I buy. Like I said, I was born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, so I understand the local markets. I feel like I'm one of the few people that are actually from around this area. When I meet people, they're usually pretty surprised when I let them know that I'm from Charlotte. But anyway, properties I've bought in the following markets: Mecklenburg County, Union County, Gaston County, Cabarrus County, Anson County, and York County. So a lot of business in North Carolina and some in the upstate of South Carolina. And then some of my other experience, just if you're interested, is I have two other service-oriented businesses, a roofing business with my father, and then actually my own structural engineering business. And then I have an online business, which is an Amazon-type business. So I am an entrepreneur at heart. I really enjoy diving into problems and coming up with solutions. I think that's kind of the engineer in me as well. So I've always had an interest in business, I guess you would say. I thought I would share some photos. This is me. I get down and dirty with these projects that I take on. I'm not just out here saying that I buy houses. I really do this business and get into the nitty-gritty details. Just about anything you can think of on a house, I've probably done it. But anyway, these are just some of the photos from over the years. One of these houses, the top left here, I think the house was built in 1898. It was a major structural some major structural issues going on with that particular one. Working with my father down there, we sometimes work with projects together. Just about anything you can think of, I've done. A lot of painting, demo, you name it. Again, some more photos here. Doing tile work. I think we were doing a custom fireplace at the bottom right. That was me and my dad working together. A major renovation at the top right. That was in Gastonia. House had been abandoned for several years, and we went in and basically redid the whole thing. Actually, that house built in 1898. That's the top middle photo there. It's hard to see, but I'm in the left sort of center part there. But I had to dig about 22 footings, I believe that house needed. So I got really a lot of work there. But anyway, just to show that I do get in and do a lot of hard and difficult projects. So I'm not afraid of whatever we may come across. All right, so our services, a lot of people ask, well, what exactly is it you offer? What do you do? So our number one thing I would say we offer is convenience. So you don't have hassles dealing with realtors, Having to get your house cleaned up, having to make repairs, get it show ready, keeping your house clean for showings, getting in and out of the house for showings. So convenience is the number one thing I would say. An easy process. So we do all the run around to make it easy as possible. The way we work with our attorney, we actually can use mobile notaries. So we've had plenty of customers or clients not even have to physically attend the closing. They sign the closing documents. The mobile notary comes to them wherever they may be, their house or their work. They sign the documents. The mobile notary delivers them to the attorney, and then it's closed on the day it's scheduled. And it's really that easy. So there's also speed. So in some cases we have to close quickly. There could be back payments or a looming foreclosure, things like that, where we have to operate really quickly. So we do offer that as part of our service. You're not going to get that with a typical buyer that has to go and get a mortgage. It's going to take 30 to 45 days to close. Again, flexibility. So we can close on our client schedule. So that's important to a lot of people. There's no need to make expensive repairs or deal with contractors. As a lot of people know, it can be difficult just getting a contractor to show up and get even an estimate. So, and a lot of our customers and the properties we buy are usually there's a lot of deferred maintenance. There's a lot of things these clients they can't necessarily afford or they don't want to deal with. So that's a big plus for them. And then we also actually can move or offer moving assistance. We've done that in the past to help sellers, as an added benefit. So, some of the other things to think about is there's no realtor commissions. Usually that's 6% of the sales price. Usually there's 3% allotted for the listing agent and 3% allotted for the buyer's agent. So anyway, with us buying direct from sellers, it's just a for sale by owner transaction. And so there's no realtor commissions. There's no closing costs for you. So we cover all the buyer and seller closing costs. We're going to pay yours, and then we're actually going to cover ours. So, and then all our closings are with the local real estate attorney. In my opinion, this is the best real estate attorney in this area. I've been working with Harry Marsh basically since going back to 2016, I believe, is when we started working together. So he handles all my closings for North Carolina and South Carolina. Very professional, reputable firm to use. And like I said, we can hire a mobile notary. You don't even have to attend closing. They can come to you and sign docs and drop off with the attorney. So our number one goal is to make it as simple as possible. Our ultimate service is we are problem solvers. We're going to go the extra mile to make your property, selling your property, as simple as it can be for you. Our number one goal in service is to make the process as easy as possible. So you're not going through these hurdles of having to repair the property, having to find a realtor, having to clean up the property, having to deal with showings, having to deal with tough negotiations with your average market, buyers that are out there getting mortgages. And many of these are first-time home buyers, and they're going to ask you for closing cost assistance because they don't have a lot of capital and these sorts of things. So anyway, we're not doing any of that. We just try to make it as simple as possible for you. But we do typically deal with complex real estate problems. That's really what our bread and butter is. So usually it's properties needing major repairs. And there could be multiple heirs. Even sometimes there's unknown heirs. So we can work together and come up with a family tree and actually piece things together sometimes. We've actually contacted people before that didn't even know they owned a property. So anyway, complex title issues, we've dealt with that a lot. Unfinanceable property. So if a house is in such condition, maybe there's not an HVAC system or there's major structural issues and there's safety concerns, a bank might not even lend on a property. A lot of people don't realize that. So we have bought properties before that are unfinanceable because the seller simply couldn't list it with the realtor because the average buyer would have to get a mortgage and those banks wouldn't lend on the property. So, and that ties in with properties that need expensive repairs, and the list kind of goes on. One thing to understand, and I just want to be completely transparent, is, we are an investor, so the numbers have to make sense. Therefore, there needs to be equity. If we're going to get in and do a renovation project where we buy a property and we hold on to it for 3 to 5 months and we're doing, these major renovations, there's got to be some sort of spread there for all the numbers to make sense for us. It's difficult to buy a property at market value today and turn it around and even sell it tomorrow, knowing we got to pay at least 6% realtor commission. So that's basically a 6% loss right off the bat that we would take if we just tried to list or buy a property at market value and then resell it, the next day. So, but anyway, there needs to be equity for renovation projects, and then if we're considering something as a rental, it usually there needs to be some minor repairs done for rentals just to get those market ready, but it needs to be able to cash flow. So the rent needs to make sense for the area and the numbers on our end. So as an investor, it's difficult to buy at market values and get a return on investment. So there just needs to be some flexibility or room for a return. That's all we ask is, a lot of our clients or customers that we come across with their situations, they're usually pretty realistic and they understand that. But we do like to just say that up front because, if you're in a situation where you have a great property and it doesn't need any work, you may be best served, listing with the realtor and selling at market value. So, but we do have many costs to consider in our investments. So that's why we ask for our customers to sort of be realistic with some sort of margin in there. We have purchase closing costs. As I said earlier, we pay your seller and also our buyer closing costs when we purchase. We have usually there's some sort of due diligence cost, any inspections or surveys that we have to get as part of our project. Holding costs, so obviously utilities, taxes, insurance, and interest each month for however long we're going to hold on to it. We have repair costs, so any renovations or work to get the house market ready. I've done projects that were over $130,000 worth of renovations. So these were major projects. And we always have surprises too. It's just like the HGTV shows, not quite as dramatic as the shows, but we do come across a lot of surprises. I ran into issues with septic tanks I didn't think about when I bought the properties, or I bought properties from grandchildren, inherited property, and they literally knew nothing about it. I bought it, and then I happened to stumble across several items that neither of us knew about, the seller or me, and that's just a part of it. So we have to have some cushion in there for these surprises we come across usually, unless it's a really straightforward property. But then also there's selling costs. So imagine we go through and we do a big renovation and we go to sell the property. We're going to pay realtor commissions on the back end, so 6% of the sale, and then closing costs at the sale. So that would be, we would be paying our closing costs for the attorney. But then also if we, usually with our end buyer, if we take it to MLS and sell through a realtor, usually there's some sort of repair request. No matter what all we do to the house, usually there's some sort of repair request. And then usually there's some sort of closing cost assistance that's asked for. So these are a lot of costs we have to consider, as you can see. But at the end of the day, we still have to squeeze a profit in on top of all that. So, so you can see why we need to have sort of some margin in there to make things work, because there's a lot for us to consider. It's not as simple as just buying it slightly cheaper than market value. All right. So, I will, note on this one more time is that if you do have a great property, say it needs little to no repairs, you're current on payments, you don't owe any liens or judgments or anything like that, you aren't in a time crunch to sell, you're wanting to get market value or above, which is perfectly understandable. You don't mind paying closing costs or commissions, and you don't mind listing with the realtor, then honestly, our business might not be the best fit. We typically work with people that are in tough situations where listing with a realtor may not work, or those banks may not lend on it, or there's some sort of time crunch where the average buyer, them closing in 30 to 45 days isn't going to work because our seller needs to get the house sold within 7 days or something like that. So I'm just saying that we might not be a good fit if you meet all these conditions here or criteria. So you may likely be better off listing with the realtor to get market value. And I just being transparent there. All right. So what about the types of properties we buy? As I've said a couple times, we solve problems. That's really what our goal is and what our aim is. And I would say most of our clients, that's what we serve. So usually there's some sort of complicated issues. When a traditional sell or realtor won't work, we dig in and find tailored solutions to your unique situation. So every closing has its unique challenges, and we just take them on a case-by-case basis. There's no set process for every single closing. Usually there's ups and downs and challenges that are unique to each closing. But what about the types of properties we buy? So we've got quite a little list here, but I'll go through them really quick. We've dealt with a lot of properties in foreclosure that are behind on payments or even underwater. Major repairs, fire damage, water damage, code enforcement violations. So sometimes people can't upkeep a property, and so the local municipality comes in and writes code enforcement violations. It could be safety related issues. It could be something about habitability issues, whatever the case may be. So we've bought properties with code enforcement violations and then got those up to code. Could be inherited properties. We deal with a lot of people that have inherited property and they don't want anything to do with the property. They just want to offload it. They don't want the liability and the insurance that goes along with that and the holding costs, all these things. They just want to kind of cash it out and move on. And probate being the same thing basically as inherited. There could be multiple heir situations where maybe parts of the family don't talk, and we can kind of be that liaison or that glue that kind of brings it all together and can communicate and kind of bring the closing together. So it could be retirement. We've bought from couples that are retiring and moving on to some better place. So that's a common one. Relocation. Sometimes we do talk to people that have to quickly relocate for work. Maybe they just bought a property and they're trying to find a way to quickly sell it. We have dealt with vacant land, and with land there comes a lot of challenges. And the average person, usually we deal with people that inherit these pieces of land, but we deal with a lot of properties that have complicated issues with just the land itself. There could be easement issues, some HOA requirements or setbacks that make it difficult to build and that sort of thing. But that's where my contracting background actually comes into play. So we do consider vacant land properties. Going back, like I said, there's some properties that are unfinanceable, banks won't lend on. So we do serve as an option for those type of properties. And just kind of wrapping up here, there could be complicated liens or judgments that are attached to the property. There could be back taxes that are owed, but most properties we purchase have complications that the average buyer can't handle. And as you can see here, we kind of take on a wide range of complex issues. All right, so I just wanted to sort of wrap this up with a few case studies so you can actually see some of the properties that I've purchased over the years, just to see that I'm actually out here doing this business. But this was a property in Charlotte. It was an estate property. It was basically inherited, and it had a ton of deferred maintenance. It really hadn't had a lot of updates done to it over its lifetime. So we bought it and did some renovations. I've got a few before and afters here, but this was a nice little brick ranch home that was, I believe, around 1,000 square feet or so. But you can see we went through and gutted the kitchen, kind of did a restart on that. Clarendon Place, this was down in Rock Hill, another inherited property. This was out of town owner. The lady was actually in Chicago, and she wanted an easy process to sell the property, and she got in contact with me, and we handled everything here basically remotely, in Charlotte. So it needed major repairs, a ton of deferred maintenance. Again, another property that really, I think this was built back in the 60s and really had never had any updates done to it. But you can see these before and afters, what we did here. I can see some major changes in the kitchen there. Again, the bathroom. All right, so Brushy Lane. This was a huge project in Charlotte, in the Providence Plantation neighborhood. And this was a retirement situation. The couple was retiring, and the house had a lot of work that needed to be done. There weren't a lot of people out there willing to dive into this big of a project, but I was crazy enough to take it on. So anyway, one thing I note here is I actually let the owners leave furniture, so you didn't even have to worry about it. That was a big selling point for them. I said, well, I'm sure you don't want to deal with taking this all the way to the beach and figuring out what you're going to do with it once you get down there. So anything you don't want to take, just leave it here and I'll deal with it. So that was a big perk for them. But you can see the house, a lot of deferred maintenance. Had a masonite siding on it, but you can see this was a huge transformation. We redid all the windows, all the custom cedar work on the front there, all James Hardie siding redone on the property. It really turned out beautiful. Kind of had that farmhouse look. You can see a big transformation here, kind of a dark feel in the living room, and we really brightened it up and did a custom German smear on the fireplace, and just really did a lot for it just with the paint scheme, really. This was the master bathroom. We took down a wall there and really opened it up, and we're able to put in a nice double vanity with quartz countertops, and it really turned out beautiful. And this was a huge transformation in this kitchen. You can see going from this to this, really gave it a modern look with the navy backsplash. It was actually a glass backsplash. We gave them the brass hardware and the fixtures. It really get it sort of a nautical theme almost. All right, so Belvedere Lane, this is in Gastonia, North Carolina. This, again, was an estate property and needed major repairs. It had been abandoned for a couple of years. It was actually a lot of water damage as a result of that. There was some damage to the roof, I think, where maybe a tree had fallen in, and a lot of water damage. So, but again, we purchased the house full of belongings to make it easy on the seller. You can see this almost looked like a haunted house before we got to it. And anyway, it turned out really nice. Kind of had a Tudor style about it. So again, it needed a ton of work, a lot of deferred maintenance. The house was full of stuff, but we cleaned it all out and worked hard on it for, I guess it was about a 6 to 7 month project. It was a huge project. All right, so Tanner Road, this was down in Marshville, North Carolina. Again, an estate property. Needed major repairs. Again, this one had been abandoned for several years, so I guess you can sort of see a theme here. And again, we purchased the house full of belongings. Just a quick snapshot of the house here. This was on Highway 74 East. It was down in Wingate, North Carolina. So this was an estate property, inherited, out-of-state owner. They were actually from Virginia. Anyway, needed major repairs. Again, purchased full of belongings. Garrett Drive, this was in Concord, a situation where the seller had gone through a bankruptcy situation, and they were starting to get a little underwater on this property, and there was some deferred maintenance, and there was actually a retirement component to this too. They actually moved down towards Myrtle Beach, but we basically took over the mortgage and then eventually paid off the loan, and they avoided any kind of foreclosure as a result of that. You can see why we buy a houses truck there in the bottom right corner. All right, so Staunton Drive, this was in Matthews, North Carolina, kind of near the Weddington area. And basically it was a underwater foreclosure situation, and there was some deferred maintenance as a result of it being a rental. And we basically took over the mortgage and paid off the loan to avoid owner foreclosure on this one as well. And this was actually after we cleaned it up. These were the one of the listing photos, but it turned out nice. All right, so Valleydale Drive, this one was in Monroe, North Carolina. They were needing to sell to refinance their personal home. And basically, there was some major crawl space moisture issues. All the subfloor was in decay. There was a really moldy smell in the entire house. And so there was some major floor system issues that had to be dealt with. So anyway, we paid cash and gave them an easy process to sell. And then they were actually able to refinance their personal home, which was their goal the whole time. See the house here on Valleydale. All right, so we had one in Polkton. Anyway, she was needing to sell to move due to her father having health issues. He was out in California. And anyway, the house was actually in pretty good condition, but it did need updates. She had taken care of it, but it was really in need of some updates. So we paid cash, made it an easy process for her to relocate and take care of her father. And just the property there. And then another case here is in Gastonia. It was an old rental. The owner was needing money for his personal house. I believe he wanted to build a garage. And so he decided he wanted to sell the property to do that. So anyway, there was a lot of deferred maintenance and needed a lot of repairs. And so we paid cash for it and made the process easy for the owner. This was another case where we used a mobile notary. He didn't even have to go to closing. But you can see here a nice little property there. And that's not really all our properties, but that is a pretty good collection just to show a number of the properties we purchased over the year and the types of clients we deal with. So and just summing it all up here, I do appreciate you stopping by and checking out our website. Let's talk anytime. Let me know how we can help you. That's what we're here for. So all it takes is a short conversation to get the ball rolling. And just remember, we like the complicated stuff. So you can give us a call at 704-727-6161. You can fill out the web form on this website. I've tried to place the web forms on just about most of the pages. And if you can't find the web form, just go to the home page and you should be able to find it there. And you can also email me or email us at info@m1propertygroup.com. But just remember, we aim to solve complicated real estate problems and make the closing process as simple as possible. And I hope we can work together, So, and also if you know someone that can use our service, maybe we aren't a good fit for you, but if there may be somebody, a family or a friend or something like that, just please keep us in mind. So again, I do appreciate you taking the time to visit our site, and hopefully we get a chance to work together. Thanks.